Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us here at Paradigm One, again, right here in the office. It's such a joy to be with you. And I have three of my favorite people right here in the office. I have Pastor Andy Harkleroad, who is the pastor of our church here, First Baptist Covington, and then Pastor Rob Caudill, who you've met before, pastor of Waynetown Baptist Church. And oh my word, those shorts that you do every morning, like either your van or your office or somewhere. They just
Office lately because it's cooler.
yeah, but those are really good. And of course, behind the camera is Thomas. Someday we're going to dig him out of his hole back there and bring him out here. But I love these men, and we work together, and we're very, very thankful to be here together. Okay, I came into church this morning, came into the building, and I forgot about this being a work day. Intentionally. No, that's not true. But anyway, I forgot about this being kind of a work day, and we're remodeling the men's bathroom, right? Yep. And so I went in there, and they were in the destruction mode, and our pastor is gifted because he is a construction man. He was a builder before you went to college, right? Before the Lord worked on your heart while you were doing that building, and he called you to Bible college to study for the ministry, right?
That's right.
And that's been a real tool in God's hands to minister to people around here. You know that, right?
I enjoy that.
Yeah. Yeah. Helped a lot of people and so forth. And then Pastor Rob is bivocational. And so he's at Danville Metal Stamping in Danville, Illinois, pastoring Waynetown Church. And you know what we like to talk about? Because I was with Pastor Andy this morning, and he made a cool statement about a seminar. It came from a seminar that he attended not too long ago about the whole idea of self-care for the pastor or the preservation for the pastor, because oh man, we have circumstances that are draining, but honestly, everybody does. I mean, the guy that works at the factory or the farmer, so we don't want to be big babies about this, but at the same time, right? We don't want to be big babies, but at the same time, here at Paradigm, we say we need to practice Jesus, obviously present and actively in charge. And so if it's good for our churches, then it's good for us to refresh in the presence of Jesus. I liked in your message yesterday, you were talking about 1 Peter 2, and here at the end it says, mainly our hearts to not be open to a set of principles, but to the person of Jesus. And so I think all of us would say that if we can slow down and get a really good look at Jesus, it helps us. It refreshes us, right? So tell us your thoughts on that and this seminar that you attended earlier this year.
Okay. Thoughts on that first? Or thoughts
Sure,
on
go
the
ahead.
seminar?
Well, go with the seminar, yeah. And
Okay, so the seminar, it was a gentleman named Brian Croft, and he had been a pastor for quite a while. And for several years now, he's in his 50s, I believe, but for several years now, he has been ministering to pastors. So it was a pastor's conference in Kentucky, and it was the idea that pastors burn out, and they burn out quickly. They carry other people's burdens. So my favorite definition for compassion is your hurt in my heart. Well, when you do that times a couple, 300 people in your church, and you do it over and over and over again, then you have a lot of hurt in your heart as a pastor. But if you put on top of that, you also encounter lots of opinions in the pastorate. So a lot of armchair pastors, and they have ideas how church ought to be, and they might even be good ideas, but they aren't necessarily a biblical idea or a biblical plan that Christ had for his church. And so in that process, if you're not careful, you could feel like a politician. And I don't want to be a politician.
yeah, me neither.
I just want our people to love Jesus. And that's where that kind of births that sentence you just read, that we don't want to be wrapped up with And would you read that again? I don't know
Well,
exactly how I've said.
well,
Like wrapped up with principles more than
may our hearts not be open to a set of principles, but to the person of Jesus.
correct. So I think that's why most people become disenchanted with the church, because they move from making Jesus central for church, and they make everything else central to church, principles and rules and ideas, and next thing you know, we just kind of drift away from what Christ had intended for his church, that we're a family and he's the head of the family, and we fellowship with him, we fellowship with one another. And
Mhm.
so I think all this goes together. So in the middle of it all, a pastor, back to the seminar, flew it in and flew it out.
It's okay.
A pastor is trying to keep all the plates spinning, and they're trying to encourage people. They're trying to encourage the ones that are discouraged with church because they might have had a principle mind instead of a Christ mindset. They're trying to listen, be good listeners. They're taking on the hurts of everybody else that's hurting financially, relationally, physically,
Mhm.
etc. And so this Brian Croft spoke clearly. He just said, you guys have to take time for yourselves. You have to take time for your wife. You have to take time for your kids. You have to take time for your own ability to rejuvenate. And he made a statement that articulated something that I've known but never heard it put so clear. If we work with our minds, we rest with our hands. And if we work with our hands, if we work with our hands, we rest with our minds. And so, example, if I worked in the trade still, I would rest by sitting down by the fireplace, maybe, and reading a book. But if I'm reading a lot during the day, preparing sermons, visiting with people, then what's restful to me is to go back to the trades,
Yeah.
and work with my hands. So that was just really helpful for me. It put it in a framework that I didn't quite hear put before.
Yeah, I like that. Can you relate to that, Rob?
Yeah, actually, very much so. Because full-time job is we make tools in the tool and die shop for the aerospace industry. And when we get a project, I get in the zone and I'm loving it. I'm working on, and we get to work on all sorts of cool machines, and I'm just lost in that I feel, I don't want to say that I'm gaining energy. I'm tired when I'm done, but there's this sense of satisfaction, like this is really cool what I get to do. So yeah, definitely. Uh, uh, if I'm understanding correctly, when you're working with your mind, you're resting with your hands. And then when you're working with your hands, you're resting with your mind. Very much so, just with what's going on with my dynamic.
Yeah.
So
Another thing I remember somebody said to me years ago in the pastorate, you are never done because people are never done.
It's like being like a mom.
Well, yeah, they're never done. We're never done until we see him. And so there's always somebody at some level of growth. And here I am, 80 years old now, and I'm still growing. And I feel very unfinished, and so even people who have been my mentors who are still living, they're in their 90s now, but Joe's still growing. They took me under their wing when maybe I was in my 30s or 40s or 20s, but I'm still under God's wing, learning and growing. And so that's a real thing.
One of my mentors is 80 years old.
Oh, yeah, no kidding. Okay, so when you're talking bivocational like this, what do you do to refresh yourself? Because I want to address your busyness. Now, Rob's got a large family, 4 children, 6 total, with he and Mama, Ashley. And so you got the job, you got the church, you got the family, and then you help other churches. You help us with Paradigm One. What does Pastor Rob do to refresh himself?
well, when I leave work, I immediately, if I don't have to go anywhere else, I go home, and I've got Ashley and the kids. One of the things we like to do, and you know, it's busy. It's a busy time even at home, one of the things I like to do, let's just stop what we're doing. Let's go get something to eat. Let's just spend time. We'll go to Benjamin's a lot. Which you've seen us enough in there, you know that's true. And then other times we'll go out to the ball field and just throw balls. My kids are finally starting to get more sports active. Kids are obsessed with soccer right now, and my oldest is obsessed with softball. So we'll just go out and we'll just. I don't particularly like to do those things, but they like to do it.
Yeah.
And my job, even though there's a lot of physical things going on, it's not necessarily a physically healthy thing. So there's a dynamic where I'm actually getting exercise and getting to see my kids get excited and all that. And so there's a couple of things right there, just going and spending time with either with a meal or with some type of sport activity. Other times it's just I'm a pretty basic millennial. I like video games. I'll play for an hour or two sometimes during the week, and that satisfies and helps out a lot with refreshing. Just
Really?
because it's just stupid activity that
It's brainless.
right, it's brainless and it feels good sometimes.
Yeah.
Amusement.
Yeah, amusement, exactly. I'm amused. So
Tell us about your brown chair.
I love my brown chair.
Okay, tell me.
Matter of fact, I haven't set an alarm since COVID. I haven't set an alarm, and I always wake up fairly early. But if I wake up after 6 o'clock, I'm disappointed. So, but I like to be in my brown chair by 6 o'clock, and I sit and talk to the Lord for a while. And we have a cup of coffee together. Me and the Lord. He likes his coffee black, and then so we sit and we visit, and then I read, and then I pray, and I go through my memory cards, and it refreshes me. And if I don't get that, some mornings I don't get that,
Yeah, right.
I'd be at the hospital at 6 because of a surgery or
That.
whatever. It just feels undone for me.
Yeah,
because I love my quiet time with the Lord.
Yeah, that connection.
Yeah.
That connection. I once heard somebody say, "We're not batteries to be recharged. We are to stay connected, and if we don't have that connection, then after a while, all the world stuff comes in, and we
Yeah.
can just feel it, So
You know how it is. You were a pastor for so many years, and you still really are pastoral. And for me, my refreshment starts with that. And I love every touch I get and every moment I get with my bride. Because in the pastorate, you have so many people you need to be with. And we love that. We love people. God installed that in our souls, I believe. And, but I would say for me to get my batteries recharged or refreshed on the other end of the spectrum is to just be with my bride. So I love those moments.
And that's really healthy.
Yeah.
For you guys to be one. And I would say I speak to pastors out there who they don't have a great marriage, and so that relationship is not built up, it kind of tears down. And so I think we here at Paradigm would say, if we can help you even practicing the presence of Christ in your marriage,
Yeah.
because that's a real part. And I love to be with Teresa, and I love to see her coming every time. She's new every day, and I love her. Do you guys have some verses that just really charge your heart?
the one that comes to my mind, I don't know why the reference is eluding me, but it's Paul. Says, "Be steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, for as much as you know your labor is not in vain
Yeah.
in the Lord." Why am I not remembering the reference?
Well, that's 1 Corinthians
Thank you.
15:58
Yeah,
right
thank
there.
you.
Yeah.
I don't know why I was forgetting that, but
Okay.
but yeah, I got the verse down. So, but
Yeah.
that's one that I'm always reminded of, because there's a lot of stuff, negative stuff. You mentioned this before that we started recording. There's a lot of bad stuff going on in the world.
Yeah.
And even in America, it's starting to creep in more and more. And there's a lot of stuff we're doing, stuff we're putting out online. That we see a lot of encouraging words, but we see a lot of negativity too.
You bet. Yeah.
And that labor is not in vain is what's precious to me. It's something we don't see all of the fruits of it right now, but it's definitely counting towards eternity as people are hearing the gospel and people are seeing what discipleship looks like, seeing what it looks like to live for the Lord. That's a verse that, helps me.
God gave that to Paul to kind of wrap up that resurrection chapter. That chapter is all about the resurrection, and I don't know how many times I've used that at a funeral, at a graveside maybe,
Yeah.
after a loved one who's a Christian passed away, and then I can exhort or encourage that family. That's a great one, Rob. You got one?
Yeah, I'm going to give you 3 of them,
Okay.
and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Years ago, I'm going to say when I was in my early 20s, I realized how prone I was to gravitate towards being involved in everything else and trying to do well at it and touching home base with Christ once in a while. I was a builder and I loved to build and I was trying to build a business. And so I memorized 2 Timothy 2:4, no man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who hath chosen him to be a soldier. So pastor or no pastorate, because I wasn't a pastor when I read that verse, because I just needed something to keep my feet on the ground spiritually and not get overly distracted. And then when I came into the pastorate, I was 51 years old, and there's a verse that we're familiar with, but it's Proverbs 3:3, and it says, do not let kindness and truth leave you. Bind them around your neck and write them on the tablet of your heart. The next verse says, so you will find favor and good repute in the sight of God and men. And I thought that is a perfect guide for the pastorate. I always want to be kind. Jesus was full of grace and truth, or kindness and truth, and I'm to model that. So in the pastorate, I never want to feature kindness at the expense of truth, and I never want to shove the truth down somebody's throat without kindness. So that's been my balancing act in the pastorate, that verse.
Yeah, Paul was careful in Ephesians where he's talking about the goals of a successful church was actually that they learn to speak the truth in love. And the Greek word goes together there and it means truthing in love. And so somehow I need to take the truth, which can cut sharply and deeply, but say it in such a way that the other person knows that I'm serving them.
The gospel's the truth.
Yeah.
It's an offense.
Yeah, truthing in love. Okay.
My third one then is Pam's and mine together, and it's 1 Samuel 12:24. Only fear the Lord and serve him in truth with all your heart, for consider what great things he's done for you. And people ask me how I'm doing, and I say, spoiled. Pam and I feel so blessed. So those are my 3 verses, and the third one is Pam's and mine together that we navigate through life with. Those 3 verses are just kind of a guiding light.
Yeah.
So
love these guys, and don't you appreciate the costume right here? We got the pencil right here in our ear. That's authentic. Yeah, and the tape measure right
he
here.
pulled me off the job.
Yeah.
I've got to get something done.
Yeah, so anyway, been a great day. We had a good start this morning, and I spent my 45 minutes on the project right there.
Yeah, and your good shoes.
Yeah, we had my good shoes, and so anyway.
Can we start a GoFundMe page for you and replace those?
No, yeah, and so anyway, everybody who's watching this, we want you to know that Jesus Christ, obviously present and actively in charge, is the answer to everything. And I love Roy Hession went to a seminar years ago. Roy's in heaven now. He's gone. He's one of my favorite authors. He authored the book From Shadow to Substance. He wrote a commentary on Hebrews. And when he left the seminar, his friend asked him, well, what'd you think about the seminar? And he said, well, a lot of good advice, but not a lot of good news. And what we're saying is the good news is Jesus. And these men reflect that in their lives and their families and in their ministries. And we thank you so much for joining us today. And may you be refreshed in Jesus. If we can help you, get a hold of us. You can find us at paradigm1.org.